friendly neighborhood kitsch witch, Tara. Anyway, welcome to our show today. You are entering the porthole to recipes for the cooking impaired. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of weird jazz hands. I think I've had too much caffeine. But hey, my mistake is your guys' benefit because this is going to be so fun. All right, you're probably wondering what we're making today because I would be wondering what I'm making. I'd be like, why did I put this thing on if you're not going to tell me what we're cooking? All right, I will be kind and tell you. But first, tickle that like button, make it giggle with delight. And noozle the subscribe button because I want more foodie friends to join us. It's so much more fun when there's people to share. Besides, I love when you guys leave comments and let me know that you're enjoying the show and the channel, and it helps my channel out. But it also is cool to have a heads up when people say, hey, can you help me with some vegan meals? I'm like, yes, or vegetarian. By the way, today's meal is vegetarian. You're welcome. It's also a tried and true favorite, but with a twist. I think you're going to enjoy it. So what are we making? Tara, what the heck are we making? All right. No more suspense. We're making 4 cheese macaroni. And this is so delicious. And it's not hard. I know that there are a million macaroni recipes out there that are hard and not super nutritional. This is a slightly more nutritional version of macaroni and cheese. But it does take a bit of time. But don't worry, we will break it down so it's easy or easier. You're going to need a 1 pound butternut squash, and we're going to cook it. Now, I've already pre-cooked mine. So to cook this puppy, I'm going to give you a little heads up. We'll go through it in the kitchen also, but you're going to cut the butternut squash in half. Butternut squash is about yay big when you want a pound of it. It has a thin top and a bulbous bottom. Make sure you look for the one that says butternut squash because spaghetti squash is also oval shaped. But you want the one that's small at the bottom, big at the top, or small at the bottom, big at the bottom, small at the top, depending on which way you have it turned. You're going to cut it in half. You're not going to add anything to it. You're just going to put it on a pan, a greased pan, or a pan with parchment. If you do a greased pan, keep an eye out on the time. It takes an hour to cook, to bake it down and make it nice and soft. With the oil, it's going to increase the heat a bit. So if you have oiled the pan to put it in to cook, then make sure you look closer to like the 50-minute mark. Just in case. You don't want it burnt. It's not as good burnt. So there's that part. 8-ounce elbow macaroni. And there are a lot of them out there. There's wheat macaroni. There is macaroni that is made with cauliflower. The wheat and the cauliflower tend to be slightly less carb heavy. I mean, it's pasta. It's going to be carb heavy. But if you're looking at something that's got a lower carb count, a little more nutrition pluses, I would recommend one of those. All right, you're going to do 4 teaspoons of butter. Now, I will throw out there, you may need to add a little bit more than the 4 teaspoons. Just kind of play around. Don't want to add more than like another 2 to 3 teaspoons over and above the 4. But if the melting of the butter, the soft butter, which we'll get to, and when it's mixed with the flour and the seasoning, if it's not quite melting very well, then you're going to need to add a little more. We can always add more. Be careful with how much you add because you can't take it out again afterwards, but you can always add more. All right, 2 tablespoons of flour. I know that doesn't seem like a lot of a flour, but we don't need it to be a lot. So it's okay. This is going to be all-purpose flour. You can use wheat flour. I wouldn't go with any other substitutions on that one, either regular or wheat, because it's going to change the consistency. And especially since the fact that we have an added bonus in this with the squash, you don't want to change it too much because then it could be problematic for anybody that you're enjoying this with. You want it to be similar and have a similar consistency because your picky eaters are going to expect this to be like homemade macaroni and cheese, but still kind of maybe taste a little more like what they're used to. So be careful. You're going to do half a teaspoon of salt and an eighth of a teaspoon of pepper. Some people have recommended even using white pepper. I don't really feel like there's a huge difference, and I tend to not have white pepper on hand, so I'm using just standard black pepper. But white pepper is totally awesome in this. If you have somebody that doesn't like the looks of pepper on their food, you might want to opt for the white pepper. All right, 1 cup of milk or a milk substitute. If for some reason you're short on funds and you don't have milk, this oddly enough works okay without it, but you're going to have a creamier consistency with the milk. Throw that out there. 2 tablespoons of semi-soft cheese with like a garlic and herb flavoring. I didn't have garlic and herb, so I used one that was shallots and chive, and the reason I got that specific flavoring is it was on sale. And I love that flavor, but this works really great also with garlic and herb. One of the suggestions, because you're like, hey, soft cheese, what do you mean? You can do brie. You just have to take the covering off. I went ahead and did the foreskin. I might be mispronouncing the brand, but it's just a soft cheese that a lot of people used to like spread on like crackers and such. All right, so any cheese that's soft, one that you would use on, say, like crackers and such. Any of you that were wondering about that weird background noise, that was an animal drinking water. It was very loud, but that's okay. Hey, it's life. We got animals, we got kids, we got friends, we got roommates, we got honey bunnies that we live with. Things happen. Noises happen. But that's all right. We don't let the noises bug us because it's all good fun, right? All right, so then we have our other cheeses. 3/4 cup of part skim mozzarella cheese. This could be grated, not the kind that is in a large circular mold or small circular molds. You want the shredded. It's so much easier to melt that way. If you have mozzarella cheese slices, and that's what you have at home and what you have available, you're still going to use 3/4. You're just going to go ahead and, slice it up, make it into little strips or crumble it. That's fine. It's just easier if it's not in the hard form realm. It tastes fine that way. It's just, for this recipe, not as easy to use. 3/4 cup of sharp cheddar cheese or the Mexican cheese blend. We went ahead and did the Mexican cheese blend because that's what I had at home. And it's a good flavor. So in this case, I guess my macaroni and cheese is going to be more like 5 cheese macaroni instead of 4, but that's all right. All right, next, 2 ounces of Munster cheese. And no, it is not made out of Munsters from, back in the 60s, the television show. It's also not made out of Monsters. It is a cheese with a bit of a smoky flavor to it. You can find it in the store. I went ahead and opted for the slices, and you want it to be thin. You don't want the thick cut. You want thin slices. Or I guess if you can find it in shredded form, that's fine too. I found it in slice form. And we're going to be actually just separating that out and making sure that it's even on our pan. And then fresh herb for topping. So you're going to top this after it is baked. After it is baked. So all of this cooked, mixed together It's going to bake on 375 for 20 to 25 minutes. But we're going to go through this step by step in the kitchen. But before we do, metric fans, I was thinking of you as always. La 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 la. Giving you extra time because there's lots of stuff. But now you're done. All right, again, no songs were copyrighted and swiped. These are all noises. They come directly from my mind and into your ears. You're welcome. All right, let's go ahead. Oh, my hat keeps falling off. Maybe I should sew it on next time. What do you think? Leave a comment. Should I just sew it in? I hear that sometimes they do that in the professions of some sort. All right, let's go make some delicious macaroni and cheese, shall we? Yes, it would be. My camera lady said you should have a heads up on the size. We do talk about that at the beginning, but it's a 1 pound squash. This particular squash was yay long, like this. You're going to cut it in half. Put it on the parchment or a grease pan, either one. I personally like parchment because with the grease, greasing the pan, it's actually going to make it cook a little hotter. So you're going to want to check in on it. That is me preheating for our meal. I'm preheating the oven on 375 because it had already cooled down by the time I mix this. So once your squash is cool, you're going to mix it all up, scrape it out, mix it up so it's ready. All right, so that will be your very first step when you're making this. The second step is going to be that you're going to cook your noodles. As you can see, I've already done that, cooked and drained. So you're cooking them until they're nice. I'm going to take one out, nice and squishy. You don't want them to be super rubbery. You don't want them to be too hard. This is what the Italians call al dente. You can take a bite, tastes good, not too chewy, perfect. Once you have that, then you're going to set this aside. You can let it cool. It doesn't matter because we are going to bake this at the very end. So I'm just going to put it off to the side and let it cool. And we're going to go ahead and take a medium saucepan. And we're going to put in the butter. And just let that start to melt. So you're going to put your stove top on about medium heat. You don't want much higher than that. We'll just use a little bit here. I'm going to mix it around. Once it starts to melt, we're going to add in our flour and our salt and pepper. I have the salt and pepper mixed together, and that is completely fine. Okay, so now we're going to add in our salt and pepper. As you can see, I mixed the two. That's all right. Just to save on little containers, and our flour. And as I said before, this is all-purpose flour. If you wanted to use wheat flour, you could. That's fine. And mix it up with this. Mix it up in the butter. It's going to look a little crumbly, and that's okay because very soon we're going to add the soft cheese. Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to add the soft cheese in there to let the soft cheese melt. Now, again, this particular brand is the Bauer Skin. I might be pronouncing it wrong. But any of the soft cheeses, totally fine. I'm going to let that melt a bit. Okay, so as you can see, the cheese is melted. I added a little bit more butter to it. You want it to be at the softened consistency. It's not going to melt entirely, but that's okay because next we're adding the squash. And it will mix in with the squash beautifully. So you're just going to put the whole thing in. This is 1 pound of cooked squash. The great thing about this is you will have family and friends eating on this, and unless you tell them, they won't even know there's squash in it. Okay, put that up to the side. I'm gonna mix it some more. So this with the butternut squash in there, great for picky eaters that you want to have a little more nutrition in the diet. Not as great if you have somebody that has any food allergies regarding squash. So always find out from people, or maybe double check what your friends or family's food allergies are before you start throwing deceptively delicious items into pans and cookware and whatnot. All right, so now that it's all mixed evenly, we are going to add our noodles. All right, so use my nice clean hands. And drop this in. If you're going to use your hands, make sure your macaroni is nice and cool. Otherwise, you will burn. So what we're wanting is for the macaroni to have like a little covering of this wonderful stuff. We're adding the cheese once it's in the pan. Now, any size bakeware that you're using, I would recommend the 3-quart Pyrex that I have. A 3-quart would be good for this amazing meal. Make sure that you're also greasing that before we add everything in, because you don't want this sticking. This is going to be a very cheesy experience. And cheese, although it has its own oil content to it, will stick. It can stick, and it is a pain and a bear to try and unstick. So let's just err on caution and go ahead and grease the heck out of the bottom and the sides of your bakeware. As you can see, the squash and cheese mix is getting on all the noodles, and that's awesome. It's looking so good. I can't wait to devour some of it. All right, so now we're ready. We are going to turn off our range or stovetop, depending on how you want, what you like to call it. And we are going to pour it into the pan. There we go. Okay, we're going to evenly spread this puppy out, and then we're adding the last of our cheese. The other 3 styles. Now, as I said before, I opted for a little extra cheese to it instead of using the sharp cheddar. I have the Mexican cheese blend, so that is totally awesome. I like it. I think it's a really good combo. It was more because that's what I had on hand and it sounded yummy. So first things first, we're going to use, this is the mozzarella as well as the Mexican blend. We're going to get this all mixed up and put half of it on. Then we're going to add our strips of Munster. So just evenly, and then we'll do one more layer with this deliciousness. Okay. All right. So I have strips. We are going to slice them and put them on. Doesn't have to be any particular amount. Just try and kind of even it some. We want to have all this delicious cheesiness to share. I like making sure I have strips against the edges, since so much of the cheese tends to be, I lost a little piece, let's throw that in, tends to be towards the middle. So we'll just kind of separate this a bit. All right, looks good. Now the last of our cheese layer. Now you could add more Munster to it if you want. I didn't want too much of the smoky flavor that often this kind of cheese has, so I only used the 2 ounces, but you could add a little bit more. Sure, there we go. All right, so we're going to put this in the oven. It's set for 375, and we're going to put it in for 20 minutes. Check it at that point, and if we need to, put it in for 5 more. All right, guys, we'll check back in a moment. All right, guys, as you can see, I put the herbs on top, fresh herbs, not dried, because then they are old. They're fresh herbs, and this is not required. This is an addition to make it look pretty and give it some extra flavoring. If you have picky eaters, you can disregard this last step. But for now, we're going to take a bite. This is really good. Really good. And I'm going to say good night to you. Good day, good hour, whatever time it is. And remember, as always, tickle that like button. It helps the channel, lets me know you like what's going on and like the recipes. You can noozle the subscribe button. Hat. Been fighting with it all day. You can go ahead and noozle the subscribe button so you can be part of our foodie friend activities. You can get all kinds of access to delicious recipes. And please leave me a comment. Let me know if you have a recipe you want to try or want me to try. Do you want to test me out? Give me something challenging. I love trying new things. Love it. Love it. Make it legal? Yeah. Make it legal. What is my person saying? My person is saying we only do legal videos because some of you guys are in places where certain additives, certain herbal additives are not legal. If you have questions about this, I have done some recipes of that sort for other people in the past because it's legal where I am. I probably won't do any videos on it for you, but I can send you some information. Anyway, moreover though, hit the bell, get your notifications. Let's have fun. Thank you for visiting me at my house, my abode, to do some yummy kitchen food. Feel free to eat some of this if you made it with me. It's really good. It's really good. All right, bye guys. I love you.